Thank you, Huey. That was very interesting, very informative. So this is the main meeting of the Central Florida Computer Society monthly on the second Sunday. And we're going to start off with the presentation that you made a while back on using Google Maps Street Views. So if I could turn it over to you, I don't have that.
Let me know if you can't hear it. Google Maps has historical street view imagery. If you see a clock icon in the upper left-hand portion of a street view image, click on it and move the slider through time and select a thumbnail to see that same place in previous years or seasons. Now with Street View, you can see a landmark's growth. This feature can also serve as a digital timeline of recent history. You can even experience different seasons. You can see the various occupants of storefronts. Let's take a look. This is Google Maps Street View Timeline. I'm Huey Poplock. I want to show you a few things about Google Maps that you may not be aware of, and something that I use a lot. Let's put an address in our search bar. When I click enter, it gives me some information about that address, but let's go ahead and look at maps. There are a few things I want to show you here that you may not be aware of. One, they show you a picture of the address and maybe some photos of it, a little bit of information. You can click on directions and get directions. You can save this. You can look at nearby items. You can send this to your phone and you can share it. I'm not going to go through those items right now. What I do want to show you is you have the street map here. If you hold it over the red dot, you'll notice over here you can zoom in, you can zoom out. What I want to show you though is this little item down here. And let's go ahead and drag that up to the address. Now as I'm dragging it, you'll see there are some dark blue lines now on several streets. Those are streets that the Google truck or van or whatever the vehicle was going through and taking pictures of. So what we're going to do is look at the pictures that were taken at this address. Here is the address that we want to be at. It's a Peruvian restaurant. Now there's several things we can do here. One is we have down here the streets, and this is the street view. So if we want to see a larger version of this, we can expand this. And we can see the streets and where we're at, so we can move around to a different location if we want, and we can minimize that. Now if you'll look up here on the top left, you'll see it shows the address, and it shows something called Street View, and it says March 2021. That's when this picture was taken by the vehicle that Google sends around. If you see here, there's a little clock to the left of that, and a down arrow. When you click that, it gives you a whole bunch of previous times. This is what it looked like in 2007. It was a Pizza Hut. And we can move along this timeline. In April of 2011, it had changed and it was a thrift store. And as we move up, we'll just take another one here. July of 2015, it was Leanne's Vietnamese restaurant, and I used to go there when it was a Vietnamese restaurant. And it stayed that for several years, but then in 2019, it changed to the Peruvian restaurant. Now, the other thing that you can do with this, and let's just drive down the street. And you might recognize this as one of the items we're talking about today, which was right down the street from it. But you can just drive and follow the route as it moves. And again, you can look around and you can then go back as well to the different dates. So those are some things that you can do with Google Maps that I really enjoy and I use a lot. Here is a quick explanation of a few things that I'm showing you. In the lower left, you can see the map, and if you hover over it, you can see the lines that show where the Google vehicles took pictures. If you hold your mouse on the little spot in the middle on the line, you can expand or contract the size of the map. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you will see an insert that has the address, and then you'll see in the lower part of it, it'll say Street View, and there'll be a little clock there. Next to that clock is a down arrow. When you click it, you will open up what is the timeline. You can move along the timeline to see various times that Google snapped pictures. In the lower right, you'll see where you can zoom in and zoom out, but you can also click the little icon and drag it to the map to go to Street View of that location. In this scenario, we're not at a particular building or a particular address. We're just on a street. What I'd like to do is kind of show you what it looks like. Although it says January 2020, it's pretty much the same now. But we're just looking around 360 degrees. All right, and look at the clock with the Street View, and we're going to click on the clock. We're going to see if we can go back to 2007. Let's go back to 2007 right from the beginning. Let's come all the way here. We click on here, and we can see that this, we can't see the name of that bank. It looks like they're changing the sign right there as we're looking at it. Next door is a Hess station. As we look across the street, there is a Sweet Bay grocery store, and the Burger King is there, which is now, by the way, now closed. Looking at it today, that's Ameris Bank. There's a Waffle House there. There's a Wawa here. Let's go to 2019, February 2019. And Ameris Bank is Fidelity Bank. And there's the Waffle House. And as we look across the street, yeah, there's the Wawa, June of 2018. And it was Fidelity Bank. And the Waffle House. And there is a boarded up grocery store. They'd put the fence around, but they hadn't started it yet. Okay. Let's move back. April 2015. It's First Bank. There's no Waffle House. And there's the grocery store. It was changing from a Sweet Bay to a Winn-Dixie. Okay, we're going to come back now to 2011. It's still First Bank. There's a gas station where the Waffle House is. And there's the grocery store in the background. It looks like that was a Sweet Bay. And if we go back to 2008, looks like it's still First Bank, still the gas station, and that's a Sweet Bay, and looks like they had a few cars in front of it. And 2007, that was First Bank as well. There's the gas station was open at that time. There's Sweet Bays. And again, coming back to 2020, which is today, we have a bank, we have a Waffle House, and we have a Wawa. So that area of Cortez Road in Bradenton changed considerably over the past 13 years. Let's take a look at an address that I saw in a news article about a new restaurant opening. When we go to that address and we then go to Maps, let's go to the Street View. By going to the Street View, we come down here, and we're going to come right up to this area. This is the building that we're looking at. This was in March of 2021. There's going to be a new restaurant in this storefront. But let's take a look at this property and see what else has been here. By doing that, we come up to this window and click on the clock. And you'll see that it has different views. So right now we're in March of 2021. And let's go back to July of 2019. And it was Leaf and Lentil. It was the same restaurant that just recently closed. Let's go back to 2018. It was something else. We zoom in. It was Porky's Fusion Barbecue. And then before that, it was Planter's Palette. You can see it in the title here. And if we come around the corner a little bit and look at it from a different view, we could see the entrance And let's go back to 2014. It was Bellinona's Bistro. And let's go back to 2011. It was Chips Fresh Mix. And 2011, it was still Chips. And then going back all the way to 2007, it was a Domino's. So it changed hands many times, and it's changing hands again. And we'll come over here and look at it. So it's fun going back and looking to see what was in that same location over the years since 2007. This is the Westin Hotel in downtown Sarasota. Most recently, they're working on the road and building a roundabout right at that intersection. That's why there's construction there. Let's take a look at the clock. And now we can see that we're in this picture was taken in 2021. Let's go back to 2019. You can see the construction wasn't there. There's not much difference in the location. We'll go back to November of 2018. It also looks very similar. June of 2018, they were still working on the outside of the building. Let's go to 2016. The building was under construction. It was a building, it just wasn't completed. As we go back a little bit further, let's go to 2015. Well, they were building the building, but they were only a couple of stories high. That was July of 2015. Let's go to April of 2015. It was only 1 story high. Lots of cranes. Let's go to 2014. And it was a field. It didn't change much from 2007. Let's take a look at that. Again, it was a field. And today. Wait, there's just a little bit more I want to show you. Let's take a look at Lecom Park in downtown Bradenton, Florida. It is a home of the Pittsburgh Pirates spring training and the Bradenton Marauders minor league baseball team. You can move around and do a 360-degree look at all around the area, and you can also zoom in on whatever you're looking at as well. Notice there's a little icon here which tells you what the item is. If we click on that, it opens some information on the left panel, which I showed you briefly at one of the other areas. But you'll notice that it does give you the address, it gives you a website, a phone number, maybe some other information about it. But if you move up here, you'll see there's a photograph. And if you put your mouse over it, it'll show you that how many photos there are. And if you click on it, it will show you photos of the particular location that you're looking at, if there are some available. That's it for Google Maps. I'm Huey Poplock. Okay.
It was great, I thought. I didn't have the details about how to try it myself, so now I've got some notes. I'll give it a shot. Thank you very much, Judy. Okay, any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, I do have a comment. First of all, wow, that was fantastic. I used Google Maps a lot too, but I had no idea it had all those features. So thank you for that. So my question is, what about using Google Maps on your cell phone? Does it work the same way? Do you have all the same features? Have you checked that out?
I have not.
Okay. Because typically I use it on my phone when I'm in the car and I'm driving someplace, and I use Google Maps, and it works very well. But
I used to have to go into some areas that I was unfamiliar with and to find some streets that hadn't existed. They were new streets. I was going into new housing developments. And so a lot of times the streets didn't exist. So I was given an address that you couldn't find on a map.
Yeah.
But I knew about where it was. And so I would use Google Maps, go to the street view, and then figure out where the new street was. And then I'd backtrack or go down the street a little bit, following the street view. And I could say, oh, there's a Shell gas station on the left just before that. And then on the other side of the street, there's a a McDonald's, so I know that right in that area, when I see McDonald's in the Shell station, I'm almost where I need to turn. So I found it really helpful in those circumstances.
So you did that on your cell phone?
No, I did it on my, I do it on the computer the night before.
So you do it ahead of time. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then
And
you-
when you're looking for something, you can always say, show me such and so near me. Or if you have a destination in mind, you can say, show me such and so near, and then say the destination. I was putting together a program for Tech for Seniors on electric charging locations. And I used a number of different applications, but both Google Maps and Waze, which is owned by Google, now have all electric charging stations available. So if you're driving a car like you see in my background, which is electric, and you need to go somewhere, you can ask it, show me electric charging stations along the route, or show me electric charging stations near that, and it'll show it to you. Just like if I'm driving my sport car, it's a Corvette, and I try to only use Shell gas, premium gas in it, I can actually specify, show me Shell gas stations along my route, and it'll do that.
Yeah, and the other thing, when you're using Google Maps, when you bring up that little box that says directions and the other things, one of the features in there is nearby, and when you click that, you can put nearby restaurants, nearby hotels, nearby anything, and so you can figure out what's in the area. So if you're in a city at staying at a hotel, you can then bring up the map and then say, show me all the pizza places, so you can see all the pizza places around the hotel that you're in.
You can even change your mode of transportation.
Yes.
Once you're there, you can change your mode of transportation to walking
Yeah.
or bus. Yeah, so that's nice also.
So there's a lot more to Google Maps than just point A to point B.
That was another reason for the car that I did buy. I got one of the entry-level trim levels that did not include navigation with it, but it came with Android Auto capabilities. So all I do is connect my cell phone to the car, press the Android Auto button, and my Google Maps appears on my display screen in the car, and it saved me about $3,500 to the next trim level up.
And Google has bought Waze.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
they're,
quite a while ago. Yeah.
they've made a lot.
Sometimes you'll see something on Waze that's not on Google, as I did when I was looking for charging stations. So,
Okay. Ted Goodwin, I see you're unmuted now. Do you still remember the question you had in the last segment?
No. What
Okay.
were we looking at the time?
Well, if we knew that, we wouldn't have to ask you what the question was.
I remember what his question was.
I have a question for you. What do you think about this Biden digital dollar thing going around?
Don't know anything about it. Never heard of it.
You got to be kidding. It's in the newspaper. It's on TV.
I don't watch TV news and I don't read newspapers.
Ted wanted to transcribe from audio to text. That was his question.
You used to be a news freak. How did you get to wean yourself from all of that?
I am a news freak, but it's all tech stuff. I'm subscribing to, I think, 15 or more AI tech newsletters. I subscribe to several others. I read them on RSS feeds, but since the politics and all the other crap that's going around, I don't want to be bothered by it.
well, do a Google search for Biden digital dollar and see what you get. Because it's supposed to happen on July 26th.
Well, good. I'm glad it's going to happen.
He's going to take all your money out of the bank.
Oh, no, and not going to take mine. Well, if I had money in the bank, I'd worry about it.
And there are
No,
lots
I
of
don't.
there's
I
lots
would. Anybody
of
else
urban
know
legends
anything?
going around.
Yeah, anything? Anybody else know anything about this? I think you're the only one.
Let's use that as one of the inquiries in this next segment. We'll
Okay.
keep it out, but we won't make it a political inquiry. Okay, we'll see what the AI has to say about it.
Good idea. That's what it's for.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on CNN every day. I've never heard of it.
Well, you're not the only one. I've gone into a bank and asked a question, and they say they don't know anything about it.
Well,
either.
and then I got a feeling that there isn't anything to worry about, Ted.
Well, Bill Gates is with it.
Who yeah, and somebody told you that, correct?
Yeah,
Well, there's 13 banks, Bill Gates, and a couple other Bezos.
yeah. I wouldn't.
At
I
least
wouldn't-
look it up.
Yeah, but that's because they told you that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put too much value in it.
The internet has always been a place as a depository of rumors. And it doesn't matter whether you're on a social media site, you're getting conspiracy emails. Thank goodness I can block those now with my Proton Mail.
I did see something about that actually a while back, but it was a single source. I think it's like clickbait, it's like this
Yeah.
fear mongering things.
Yeah.
People click on it because it's frightening. But yeah, I would want for more source.
All right, well, we'll when we segue here shortly into an AI discussion, we'll make that our first inquiry.
Okay, let's, Mike, you're our co-host, so you can share your screen. Your floor is
All
yours.
right. Okay, let me get my screen too. And just in case I optimize it for video, I don't think I'll be showing any video stuff. We'll just say share. And you should be seeing Google Bard on your screen now. Okay, I started as Huey did, with AI, with ChatGPT. I don't know, Huey. It's been, I think all of it's been since what, November or December this year?
Well, it was all released in November. We didn't start hearing about it until probably January or February.
Yeah, and there's lots of rumor mongering going around about AI as well. So I'm just going to focus in on the technical sides of things. That is, what's it good for? And as you heard Huey say, he subscribes to newsletters. I subscribe to a couple of them, and I'm overwhelmed as well with what they show. I did sign up for Bard. I think you'll notice on my screen it still says experiment, so Google considers it an experimental. And I think now anybody can just go to bard.google.com and get this screen, or they may have you sign into your account in order to give you access to it. And the AIs start off as a natural language model, as a database of how language is formed, and then working from that, a database that accesses facts in some way, shape, or form. We've actually had some discussions on Tech for Senior, and I think there's been some videos on it as well, talking about how it actually forms or reads the inquiry word by word by word, and interprets the inquiry by what you're asking, and then how it provides the answers. And I still think, from what I've seen so far, that there's a lot more going on from a standpoint of computer processing than just merely being a smart lookup. But like they say right here, write some lyrics for a heartbreak anthem titled Lovesick, and it'll just generate lyrics for a song. And I've also written a poem in iambic pentameter for Valentine's Day. to put inside a card for my wife. You know, so there's amusing things that you can do. And you can research some things. What are some ways to make instant noodles even more delicious? And it'll give you some recipes of things. I recall my wife came home with a dozen ear of corn the other day in husks. And I recalled seeing somewhere on YouTube how to cook corn in the microwave, but I couldn't remember the video and I hadn't bookmarked it. So all I really did was enter a question and say, describe how to cook corn, USK, husks and all, in a microwave. So now it's got to, you know, I could search this on Google and I'd probably get corn and microwave and a few things. And I might actually get some websites where they do that. I might even get the YouTube videos. But just by asking this of the AI, you're going to see this in real time as I see it. It's parsing what I just questioned, and then here's how to do it. Rinse the corn cobs under cold water. Trim the top and bottom ends, about 1 inch from the top and a ½ inch from the bottom. If you like, you can remove the silk. One of the nice things is not removing the silk, because when you eventually take the corn out of the husk, because it's now cooked, the silk all goes with it, the vast majority. Then place the corn cobs in a microwave-safe plate. Wrap each corn cob in a damp paper towel. I didn't bother with that. I just put a little plastic cover on top of them. Microwave the corn cobs in high for 3 to 5 minutes. Let the corn cobs cool slightly. And then, because of the shape of a corn husk, it's actually going to have a wide end at the base and a narrow end at the top. So I took a kitchen towel, wrapped it around the husk, grabbing the top and holding it, and then pulling down from the bottom, which is wider, and then pulling the husks off. So essentially, I wound up with very fresh corn on the cob, and I enjoyed it. So then they talk about some additional things that they give you. Now, one of the nice things about this specific AI is once you've got your answer, if you want to share it, you could select all and get all the rest of this, but you could also say, let's take the response and let's just make a Google Docs out of it. So I'm just going to click on that and say exports to Docs. I could also have it pop it in my Gmail. I use Proton Mail, so that wasn't what I wanted to do. But if I wanted to just pop this into a Gmail, I could just click that, and my Gmail client will open and it'll put the whole body of what's above into it. I'm going to export it to Google Docs. Open Google Docs, and here's the answer. Now, if I want to put that into an email and send it, or if in my case, I printed it out, and I've got a copy of this now sitting next to my microwave. And I've done this for a number of different microwave type recipes, also for an air fryer. There's lots of things that I like to do in the air fryer, and I'll do the same thing. And then if I like, I can just delete it. I've already got a copy of this. So I'll just move that to trash and close that. Let's see here. Okay, so what have I done? Let me hit the next section on this. If you click updates, you get what's new with Google Bard. So as of at least the last time I inquired on this, June 7th apparently was the last one. So for those who are programmers or for those doing math, they have asked Bard to have better computational prompts and running code. If you actually put code into it, like BASIC or C or JavaScript, you can actually ask it to troubleshoot code for you or actually run the code. So a portion of Bard's computer processing power is actually set up to run code if you actually want help coding something. I don't think there's too many of us that write code anymore, but we all used to do it. back in the late 80s and early 90s. And the big thing that I had noticed with BART that I've been very critical about, and you and I had looked at this when I was researching some BART analysis of electric vehicles for a presentation I'm giving shortly on Tech for Senior. We found that it was not calculating very well in terms of ordering things in order from high to low, or actually calculating costs and things along those lines. Although I think we did it after June 7th, but unless this is US standards, unless it's overseas standards, actually 7.6, but I think it's 6.7. But they're trying to make BART better at computation. And the nice thing about it is if I do something like that, I can actually export to a spreadsheet. So let's say, give me a list of random numbers in a table from 1,000 to 1,100, step 10, and give me the averages of each number compared to the total, and provide the in a form I can input to a spreadsheet. Probably more than I needed to give it to, but let's see what it does. Okay, so it's giving me the number, and then it's taking each one and giving me an average. And if that's what I wanted to, and say export to sheets, now I've got it in my spreadsheet. Now I can do a lot more complex type of things. So I was doing things on base prices of cars, and I wanted to get them in an ascending order. And then I wanted to know, by how much is one over another in terms of percent and so on. And I did actually find out that I was not getting good calculations, nor were they ordered in the order that I wanted to see. And I'm hoping that that's going to improve. So I'll go ahead and close that one also. So what have I done with BART that I have found being very productive? So if in BART itself, if you click on activity, first of all, I like to reset chat, so all of this stuff isn't there. But the nice thing about it is it remembers what it told you, and then you can ask a question about what it gave you. But if I reset chat, it'll save it in what activity I have, give me a clean screen, and then this is the activity as of earlier today. So for example, I wanted a list of every battery electric vehicle available for sale in 2023. So if I actually ask that question again, this helped me research the presentation that I'll be giving later this month. And recently, BART has started putting images in their results. So when I first started using BART for this subject, all I was getting was the text. So if anyone in our audience is even thinking about any kind of vehicle purchase, and you're saying, well, I've got a budget of so much, give me all SUVs that are in a range of from 25,000 to 35,000, ordered in order of base cost. And it will start giving you that information. And at the moment, it's in order of alphabetical order. So you can see it's giving me a whole list of EVs. And you'd say, well, okay, here's a whole bunch. Where did the Honda one go that I didn't? I thought it was in order. Aha. All right. It didn't give me the full, let's see, let's continue. Continue the list. Sometimes you don't get everything.
And that's the other nice thing about it is it's a conversation. So you don't have to repeat all of the question and then just add what you want changed. You can just
Right.
make it like a conversation.
When I get down here, though, what I noticed was I said all, didn't I? And they didn't do that. Since this is just a partial list, that's just many more. And they're talking about the ranges are just estimated and so on. But I actually, now one that I had on it, my first inquiry is no longer here. I'm glad they corrected it because they gave me a Honda that didn't exist. The car never was built. It was never created. Somebody, I had not told them that that was the case, but somebody may have already told them that car was never built. And I know that Bob G has been doing a series on small towns all around the country. And he asked for small towns in a given state of populations less than a certain amount. And whether it was ChatGPT or Bard or Bing, actually gave him towns that never existed and gave it a name and population and all the rest of that. So you've got, because it can write fiction, you know, so they're constantly working on that. But now I could say, give me a table of all of the listed cars in the last 2 inquiries, showing the make, model, base, price, and range. Let's see if it gives it to me. Let's see how many we got. It's in alphabetical order. I can already see that there's some Mercedes-Benz not included that I found on my own. Oh, and it only gave me 1 Tesla. And it didn't put it in order either. So if I thought that was all of them, it'd be the wrong answer for me. So it's giving me something that I can go look at. So I would have to say to it something like, you didn't include all of the cars in your last 2 results. So I'm criticizing them.
Gonna make them cry.
You're right. I apologize for the mistake. Here's the updated table of all the battery electric vehicles listed in the last 2 inquiries, showing the make, model, base, price, and range. Now, did he really do that? Let's see. I'll recognize some of these. Yeah, he still didn't include all the Mercedes.
But there's more Teslas.
And there's more Teslas, right? Yeah. And now if I wanted to say, okay, sort the table by range from highest to lowest. Now let's see if I get everybody and see if the sort is correct. I had to do this in the spreadsheet, I would have to do it, and I can export it to the spreadsheet if it gives me everything the way I want. Plus, I'd have to count, and make sure he did give it to me. So let's see if we actually have all of these in. No, see? I said sort by range, didn't I? So it put the Rivian with a range of 314 higher than it put the Rivian with 316 miles. So that's the mathematical error.
And the next two as well.
Yeah. So let's see if I call that to attention. I think you made a mistake. As I see some range values sorted in the table in the wrong order. You're right. I have corrected it. So now, is he right in saying I'm right and it now is sorted? So let's take a look. No, same problem.
Yep.
So now typically what I would do to be productive on this is I would say, okay, you gave me a bad response. And I'm going to say not factually correct. I did this once before. The table supplied is not properly sorted. Now that's not going to go to AI. That's going to go to I guess, a quality assurance group that's going to take a look at that, to help improve it and so on. So all they do is, thanks for your feedback. Let's see, what else did I do?
Mike, can I go ahead and
Sure,
and show
go ahead. Please.
Okay, well, Ted asked, or no, Ted was talking about, was trying to
Oh,
give an
yes.
answer for somebody with an iPad. And let me go ahead and,
All right, I'll stop sharing and you can share.
yeah.
yours.
What are you blaming on me?
No, we're not. You try to solve somebody's question and we'll come back and do the thing you were looking for.
Yes, the
Whoops.
digital currency.
But here, sure. Okay, so I've got it here. Did I copy it and paste it? Let's see if it's in my, yeah. On an iPad, how do I change the speaker mode to gallery mode in Zoom? Remember, we had that question and we couldn't quite get the answer. Let's see what Bard tells us. And there it is. Open the Zoom app on your iPad, join or start a meeting, tap the view button in the upper left-hand corner of the screen and switch to gallery view. Some additional things to keep in mind. You can only switch to gallery view if there are at least 2 participants. The number of participants you can see in the gallery view depends upon the size of your iPad. And if you're the host of the meeting, you can change the default video layout for all participants. Okay, so now when I have a question, I don't go to Ted and ask him, or I don't go to Stan and ask. I just type it into one of the AI programs that I use. And it, instead of sending me to all these different websites that may or may not even cover the topic, it gives me a step-by-step how to do it. You've got to bear in mind, it may not be correct, but it's there. And Mike, I'm going to give it back to you and I'll let you answer Ted's question about the money thing.
Okay. So let's keep it conversational. I am hearing a lot of rumors. OURS? Rumors. No. A lot of rumors about the U.S. currency switching to digital form. Is this correct? And what can you tell me about the process to convert if it is going to happen? The U.S. Federal Reserve has not yet made a decision on whether to issue a central bank digital currency, CBDC, but it is exploring the possibility. A CDBC would be a digital form of US dollar that would be issued and backed by the Federal Reserve. It would be similar to other digital currencies such as Bitcoin, but it would be regulated by the government. One of the advantages of I'm not reading now. One of the advantages of digital currency that's not regulated by any government is just that. It's not. It's self-regulating by the exchange that creates it. It has good features and bad features. And lots of governments who want to control their currency a lot tighter than some of the free world don't want that to take place. Anyway, if the Federal Reserve does decide to issue a CBDC, the process of converting digital currency would likely be gradual. The Federal Reserve would first need to develop a plan for how the CBDC would work, how it would be distributed. It would also need to work with banks and other federal institutions to ensure they are prepared to accept and use it. Once the Federal Reserve has a plan in place, it would likely start by issuing digital currency to banks and other financial institutions. These institutions then be able to distribute digital currency to their customers. Individuals and businesses would be able to use the digital currency to make payments just like they use cash or checks today. The process of converting to digital currency would likely take several years. It's important to note that the Federal Reserve has not yet made a decision on whether to issue currency, so it's possible that the conversion process may never happen. Then they go on to talk about the benefits and the risks. So those who are concerned about surveillance, okay? Right now, if you take a certain amount of cash out of your account, if it's greater than, I'm trying to remember what the limitation is, I can ask that question. I think if it's greater than $600 cash, the bank has to make a report. I think it's 600, but maybe not. Theoretically, increased risk of cyber attacks, potential for financial instability, adoption by other countries could lead to the erosion of U.S. economic dominance. I know China is working to try to get their currency adopted as the worldwide standard. So let me ask a couple of key questions. To implement this conversion, can the president branch of the government direct it to take place, or must it be approved by Congress and then signed into law by the president? So we'll see if the presidential branch. According to Google Bard, the presidential branch of government cannot direct the conversion. So we would take the name that Ted gave it off of the description because it may or may not be his to attempt to direct. But apparently, at least according to Bard now, the power to create and regulate currency is vested in Congress, not the president. He can issue executive orders, and these orders cannot create new laws to override existing laws. So Congress would have to decide to issue the currency. It would need to pass a law authorizing the Federal Reserve to do so. The law would need to specify how the CDBC would work, how it would be distributed, need to address the risks and benefits, and so on. And
Well, it seems to me, Mike, in other words, Ted read that it was going to go into effect, which means it was geared as a misinformation from wherever he got it from that made him think it would be, but might cause him to do something with his money that he doesn't want to do or need to do. And so this is the kind of thing with AI that you can research something very quickly and easily, much easier than you could just 6 months ago.
Now, we saw how, at least for calculations, the BARD was wrong in a number of things. So this is BARD's answer. Now, how much of this is true and how much of it isn't? So the first thing you can do to start your verification, because we always say search but verify. So at least you can go to the search engine, and now there already are things on the web. And so it says, can the presidential branch direct it? So let's see what comes up in that kind of a search. So as of October 18, 2022, the Fed says it needs congressional support to issue digital currency, but it's unclear whether it has to be in the form of legislation. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was back in October.
And then March of 2022, strong steps to reduce risk as opposed. Okay. Technical possibilities. That actually.
And again, to summarize, so you don't have to go through all of these,
Yeah.
what it boils down to is you can verify what you read by Googling it and then going to various websites and seeing if those websites are things that you would trust.
Yes.
Obviously, the one it's the White House would be more believable than, and the Senate one, than maybe a newspaper or some other place that you never have heard of. Stephen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I did just that. I did a quick Google search. And first of all, one of the things that didn't come up in your search is Senator Ted Cruz is offering a bill that will prevent the United States from using or going to digital currency.
That was further down the page on the Google search engine. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing is, and maybe this is what Ted is talking about, there's a list of participating banks that are entering into a pilot program with digital currency, which includes BNY Mellon, Citibank, HSBC, MasterCard, PNC Bank, TD Bank, Truist, US Bank, and Wells Fargo. The global payments provider SWIFT is also participating in the effort, along with New York Innovation Center, part of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. This was as of November 16th of last year. So there's something going on. They are experimenting with it, but like I think we determined, Congress would have to introduce a bill that would allow it to go forward.
And what was the source of that information, Stephen?
Yeah, let me see. This is Investopedia.com.
Yeah, it's right on the tip of my tongue all the time.
Okay, listen, there was a bill passed, and this was an item in that bill that was approved by Biden. And then that was redacted from the whole thing.
And what's the source of that, Ted?
Emails and.
Oh, okay. That
Have you ever
that it's
heard
got to
of-
be.
Have you ever heard of Nomi Prinz?
Nope.
She talks about a lot of financial matters.
Okay.
And Mike, will you try a search, or who was doing that?
Both
Yeah,
of us.
I can go back to the search if you want. I was
Yeah.
just going to say that Ted, you can get on BARD as well. Okay, it's bard.google.com, and continue this independently because we don't want to turn our meeting into a discussion on digital currency and its political impact. But I will say that in terms of being a research tool, it can get you started. And Stan knows that he and I have been talking about medical prescriptions, and we've also been talking about supplements. And let's say your doctor writes you a new prescription and you you ask him, what are the possible side effects usually? Hopefully he discusses them with you. When you pick up the prescription at the pharmacy, you get a sheet, and that sheet has got tiny little print and it tells you all the things about it. But if you want to get it in layman's terms, then you can go into an AI and you can say, tell me about such and so, the medical prescription, and tell me what the benefits and negative side effects are. And if we've done this, I've done this in a number of prescriptions that I take or I'm considering taking. And then I've done it for my supplements, because I take I try to eat healthy, and then I take a whole bunch of supplements, and I have for 20, 30 years. But I'm now, because I take so many supplements, I'm concerned about interactions between them.
Yes.
So you can actually say, here's a list of the supplements I take, and here's a list of prescriptions I take. Tell me about any negative interactions. And it gives you a tool rather than have to go to a place like, let's say, WebMD, which is a very good website for checking out side effects on prescriptions or supplements. I can actually have the AI do the work for me. I just have to verify it. That's all.
Okay, will you do one more?
Hang on, let me share my screen again. Let me reset chat. Okay, what is it you'd like to have me do?
I'd like you to put in enter.
Just ask the question.
Yeah, enter the law about vertical dollar.
I'm sorry, about what dollar?
Vertical.
Vertical.
Well, instead of saying enter, I'm going to say what can you tell me about?
Well, it has to be a question.
No,
No, instead of vertical, it should be virtual.
Virtual dollar, okay. Okay, so this brings in the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. Virtual currencies as commodities. Okay, I used to be a day trader, as many in CFCS know, and I used to trade futures, but there are many indices that are created against non-commodities. That's why they call them virtual. So people who trade in the prices of currencies can also trade in their virtual currencies based on how the governments value them, I suppose. So there actually are virtual currencies now that can be traded in the US if it's just classified as a security, and then any trading platform that's done in it. Let's see. The IRS describes virtual currencies as a digital representation of value that functions as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, or a store of value, and does not have legal tender status in any jurisdiction. That means if you've got $10,000 in some virtual currency, you can't just put it in your pocket and go, buy or sell something with it. The only thing you can do is trade it based on what you think its future value is going to be worth. And now this is interesting. Although electronic payment systems have been part of American life since at least 1871, when Western Union introduced money transfer through the telegraph, and 1914 introduced the first consumer charge card, virtual currencies differ from these digital payment structures because, unlike traditional digital transfers of value, virtual currencies do not present a claim on value. Rather, the virtual currencies are the value. So this would not be something directly related to the digital dollar you were talking about, and it exists now.
That's right, but keep going down.
Okay. Regulations, you got the Bank Security Act, currency transaction reporting, a know your customer regulation, anti-money laundering,
Okay, go
uh,
on.
laws and regulations governing virtual dollars constantly evolving, some additional resources, Commodity Futures Trading Commission website, Securities and Exchange Commission, Internal Revenue Service, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and so on. And of course, you can Google it. And the only source they gave in this case was Wikipedia. So most of what you could have done if you knew to go to Wikipedia and searched on it is listed here.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the SEC. So
Yeah,
go on down and see what else. is
Well,
in-
let's not get into a total discussion of all of this, but what
Sure.
it boils down to that it's totally different than what you thought it was, and at this point, it's not something to worry about.
Well,
In
July
other words, Ted,
26th.
I'll ask you a simple
Quickly.
question. I'll ask you a simple question. Do you presently now have a futures trading account with any brokerage?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So you have a brokerage that you can actually trade futures. You could buy so many contracts of corn or black-eyed peas or whatever.
yeah, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think we're carrying this a little bit too
All
far
right. Okay.
for technology.
Okay.
You want to have a
Right.
financial
Very
group,
quick.
that's a good idea. So appreciate the input, Ted. It made for an interesting discussion on how you can research these things on your own, Ted, just by typing
Yes.
them into Bard. And it'll give you back the answers, which would be more involved than what we can do.
I understand that, but I couldn't do it right now.
No, well, when this is over with, we'll end it soon just so you can do it.
Okay,
Walter's had his hand up for
let me give
quite a
you
while.
one more thing.
No, let's give Walter a chance, and we're getting on to the end here.
Yeah, seeing how easy this is to do, I tried it for the first time. I'm done a lot of genealogy. I know some of y'all have. And back in 1917, my grandfather was a farmer in Sioux City, Iowa. And I know he moved to Fellsmere, Florida, down near Vero Beach in 1917, 1918. I've always wondered why. And I just put into Bard, how would a farmer in Iowa learn about the town of Fellsmere in Florida in 1917? That gave me the first issue was newspapers. Then I asked what newspapers. Then I asked what date the article was in the newspaper. And actually it gave me some text of the article, which I thought was really fascinating.
Wonderful. And I do a little bit of genealogy myself, but I hadn't even thought about, asking some of those questions. I usually go onto Ancestry and look at the resources they have.
So now I know how my grandparents got to Florida.
But the point that I started this whole thing out with is we all kind of looked at this as a natural language model. Okay, interpreting questions, putting answers together, analyzing words and phrases, and it does that. But then the kinds of questions that we've been asking, even in today's sessions, you sort of say to yourself, how is all this information being put together by the computers that are processing this code? And this is where the term artificial intelligence, I truly believe it's not sentient, but I truly believe there's a lot of this going on behind the scenes, behind this natural language model that forms some of the database. So it can interpret our questions and it can, in a conversation style, give us answers. So
And it's not like Google, where you ask a question, it goes out to a database and finds things that will filter into the answer. What it's doing is it's figuring out what you're asking, and then letter by letter or syllable by syllable or maybe word by word, and sometimes even sentence by sentence, it's putting it together and building the answer as it goes. And it's a hard thing for me to wrap my head around, but that's what it's doing. It's not doing it the normal way that we would expect it to do. Go out and look at a lot of information. It's taking all that information, which is all in one lump, and it's pulling out the kinds of things that you're asking it in a way you're asking it, and try to giving you the answer from that.
Yes.
He was back to his normal look. He was just, it made it look smaller when he had his camera too far back. He's back to his full weight, no neck.
Francis, I can barely understand what you were saying.
Yeah, I did.
You know, back to
Yeah,
normal again. When he adjusted his camera forward. And I thought he had lost a bunch of weight. I can't believe how big Victoria got. I know, okay, Scott's out banging.
The real problem, I think, is it has no way to determine the truth.
That's correct. And what they don't call it lies, and they don't call it untruths. They call it hallucination.
That's right.
That is the official term for it.
Oh, I didn't know there was an official term now.
Yep. Yep.
If they come out with a truth routine, I definitely want to see the code behind that.
Well, what they're trying to do with all this knowledge is improve the quality of the answers and have less hallucination. One of the issues that they're having is the fact that they're putting all this incorrect data out there, which it now is feeding into answers because that information is out there now.
Yeah, it's
And
no different than the past.
so it can compound the hallucination or untruth to what
Sure.
they say based on the fact that they've made it up.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
An old story.
But it's really interesting in what you're getting. And I'm finding that just asking a simple question, on how do I do something? And I either don't remember, or I've never done it before in Word or in Excel or in something else. I just ask a simple question and it gives me step by step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is what you do. And I have found almost all the time that it works. I've been playing with a Mac that I have never played with, so I don't know how to do a lot of things that you would normally know how to do, and I can do on a PC. But by asking Bard or one of the other AIs, I say, how do I do this on a Mac? And it gives me the step by step. Oh, I hit this key instead of that key, and it works.
I'll just put a disclaimer on that and say maybe 95% of the time, because
Yeah.
you and I discussed when I was, working on my wife's new computer, I wanted to structure the database on the second drive and all of the system file folders on that second drive. And I found that in Windows 11, it was doing it differently than in 10. And when I asked Bard how to do it, I got instructions that even though it said it was for Windows 11, didn't work. So, and I said to Bard, hey, this doesn't work for me. Oh, I'm very sorry. I'll correct it. And then it came back and gave me the exact same instructions again. So.
Yeah, because it's only got so much information. And what's powering all of this are graphics cards put out by basically two companies. It was one, and I can't. What is the name?
Radeon.
Yeah, NVIDIA, and now AMD is in the picture.
Yeah.
Remember some of the early versions of this, it seems to me, gave you a percentage of
accuracy?
whether or not it was of accuracy. In other words, it would tell you, it would admit that it may not be fully accurate, but it's, the confidence level would be like 85% or 95%. I don't think we get that anymore.
That would be interesting to put into your query. Give it the question and then say, please provide a confidence level in your answer or something.
Yeah, good point.
I'll have to try that. All right, Stan, back to you to wrap it up and any announcements you may have.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. It was, I think, very interesting. I gotta try to find some time to try this myself, because that really looked great. We just ask it the simple questions and try to avoid the hallucination. I had heard that phrase before. Okay, on the Central Florida Computer Society, the next meeting that we have is the Tech Sig on the fourth Tuesday, which is the 25th of July. Huey, would you go through what you got coming up in terms of Tech for Senior and that?
Yeah, well, every Monday from Eastern time now, these are Eastern times from starting at noon, we open the doors at 11:30. You can join us at 11:30. Is Tech for Senior, and it's 1 hour and about 20 minutes, including the Q&A. That's every Monday morning. On Thursdays, we have Tech for Senior Live, and that is on either Facebook or YouTube is where you're going to go watch us on our channels on those two. And we do it using a program called StreamYard, which you don't even need to know about that. What you're going to do is see it in either, as I said, Facebook or YouTube, and you can watch us live and comment, and then we post up the comments that you make. And then later this month, which is the fourth Thursday of the month, is Learning Chromebooks. And if you're getting my Windows SIG newsletter, I'm including the CFCS and STUG main meetings and what their topics were or are going to be. This past month, which was last Wednesday, STUG had Judy Tallur talking about kitchen appliances and technology. And it was a very, very interesting presentation.
Okay, well, thanks all for attending. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Stop the